Hi everyone, we have Amanda here from Sweet Pea and Sorrel. How are you today?
I'm very good. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Please just get straight in and tell us a little bit about your property, which I would say is quite involved and quite a lot going on there. So please tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so we've bought this rambling old Victorian. I think it was probably a farmhouse is probably the best way to describe it, but it's been added onto and added onto a bit more and added onto. I think everyone's had a go at it over the last few hundred years, and so yeah, it's there's a lot to do. It basically needs, I wouldn't say it needs gutting, but every room is different. So every time you go into a room, you have to sort of think, right, how far do we take this back, and what stage do we take this bit back to? Because it's all different, because it's all been added onto at different times. So, um, so yeah, it's an interesting project, and we've just sort of started, and we've been here 3 years, but it's going to be it's a long term. It's our lifetime project, is what it is.
That's what it's about, really, isn't it? Like building your forever home, I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah.
How did you feel about taking on such a large project? Is it something you wanted to do for a while, or is it like this popped up and you're like, oh, I just love the history of it?
Yeah, it was all kind of a complete accident. So we we did a big renovation like 20 years ago, but I was pregnant when we started it, and then I had a small baby, and so I didn't have much to do with the actual day to day of the renovation. We were I just sort of made a few decisions, and my husband did most of it. Um, and we moved into it. Had a tiny baby when we moved in, and it was a mess. So it wasn't finished, and then we had to try and get it all done. And by the end of it, I hated it. I hated the house. I hated just it was just awful. And I hated the experience more than anything. And I swore then I was never going to do another renovation. And so from there, we'd just been moving around. We'd rented quite a lot, and that was down south. That was in Dorset, and then we moved up to Cheshire originally, and then ended up here. But we'd been renting, and we'd got to the point where we were like, ready to buy again. Oh, sorry, it's going to ding. And then, yeah, so we were like ready to buy, and we were looking around. And I was looking for sort of 4-bedroom houses, and I didn't mind a bit of redecoration, that sort of thing, but I definitely didn't want a renovation project. And this only happened because we were on holiday at the time, and I was doing my sort of daily scroll through Rightmove, and we were arguing about square footage, and James kept saying, no, it's not big enough, I want more square footage, more square footage. And so I jokingly showed him this property and said, is that enough square footage for you? Because there's twice as much as we were looking at. Um, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's quite nice." And I said, "Don't be too stupid." And it was only because if we hadn't been on holiday, I would have just moved on. That would have been the end of the conversation. But we were sitting on this balcony, and so we were chatting about it, and we were sort of saying, would you think about doing a renovation, and what, we were talking for hours about it. And then James was like, "I'm just going to make some calls and see, what mortgage I could get," and and then it just sort of snowballed from there. And I honestly, right up until we got the keys, I never believed it was going to go through, because there was loads of people looking at the house. The mortgage, we managed to get a mortgage right before the mortgage rate shot up, and I was convinced that they were going to pull it and say, "No, we're not going to do it. We're going to reassess." I just never thought it was going to go through. And then I just kind of ended up here. So yeah, so that's how it happened.
Wow.
And
And was it a house that a lot of people were interested in? Because it's a magnificent house, but it would scare the average person, I think, just hugely. And it's got so many rooms and so much to it. But I imagine there must have been a few people who would be like willing to take it on.
yeah, there was a lot, because it was quite reasonably priced for the size of the property. And I think, well, it was on the market for 2 weeks, and they had 30 people looking round it. at that time. And I think the agent, it didn't go to sealed bids, but he basically said, he was actually a really good guy, the estate agent. He basically just sort of said, I'm going to give it till this date, and I want you all to just give your offers in, and we'll take it from there. But it wasn't sort of sealed bids because it was owned by the estate. The estate were quite picky about who they wanted to sell to, in that they didn't want it to end up as a hotel or being turned into flats or anything, because it's right in the middle of the village and they still own the rest of the village. So they were quite keen for it to remain a private house, basically. So they wanted some control over who ended up with it. So yeah, and I don't think ours was the highest offer. It was more just that they knew us through it was quite complicated, but the guy that showed us round knew James's dad from the army, and then it turns out that, well, we knew none of this, but it turns out that James's grandfather used to shoot with somebody from the estate. So it there was sort of vague connections. So yeah, that was how I think we ended up being chosen. I'm not sure it's a good thing. Or maybe they just saw us coming, I don't know.
I love that they wanted it to go to like a nice family and someone who's actually going to improve it, and like you say, not knock it down or make a hotel or something out of it. So that's pretty cool.
I think they were quite worried that somebody was going to, just change how the village is. I mean, this is it's a really sleepy sort of little village, and we're right next to the church, and I don't think they wanted that to change that feel of the community. So, and I don't think it has. I think we're blending in quite nicely. It was the Christmas carol service at the church last night, and then we all went for a drink, and I got quite drunk. So we were blending in.
You're definitely blended in.
That's it.
So do you guys have a DIY background of any kind? Because taking on a project like that, unless you've got very deep pockets, you need to either learn fast or have some sort of experience in DIY.
Yeah. Thank God for YouTube. No. Yeah. No. I mean, we're both pretty handy, but no, we haven't. My husband does a lot of carpentry, so he's always been interested in that, and it's never been his job, but he did work straight out of school. He had a job with a carpenter, so yeah, he really enjoys that sort of stuff. So that's quite handy. And I'm just learning as I go. I think I haven't really done anything before. Even when we did that last renovation, like I said, I wasn't really involved. I think I did a bit of wallpaper stripping, and that was about it.
Well, I've been watching your content, and it made me laugh when you said you had like the plastering wall that turned into just where you ended up practicing because it was so bad. Honestly, not afraid just to jump in and try whatever.
Oh yeah. No, I just just carry on. I think you learn by doing it, and I think we've always had a bit of a motto in that none of it is rocket science. It's some of it is. You can have a go at it, and sometimes what you learn is that it's quicker and easier to pay somebody to do this. But other times you think, well, actually, I quite like doing that, and I've learned to do it, and it's not that difficult, and so I can keep doing this myself. So I think try it and see how you get on, I think would be my motto. Yeah, I'm happy to try anything. I'm probably not going to be driving dumper trucks anymore, but
oh yeah, sorry, I heard about this. This is awful. I don't know if you know if you want to talk about it, whether it's too stressful,
too traumatic. Yeah. No, it's fine. Yeah, no, I was driving one of those mini dumper trucks. The really tiny ones, the 1-ton ones with the really small buckets, and on the front there's a big sign that says "Do not tip on sloping ground." And let's just say I miscalculated the level of the slope. And so the whole thing tipped over and unfortunately landed on my leg, which wasn't very good. But amazingly, it didn't break my leg. I don't know how it didn't, but it didn't. But it was, it wasn't very good. It got infected, and I ended up in hospital for a week. So,
Oh, no, it's terrible.
Yeah.
so that was miserable, and it took ages. But the worst thing was it was really hot, and I couldn't go in the pool because of my stupid leg. But yeah, no. But it's lucky. I know it's all. I would say I have full function now. I'm just a bit sore. So that's just the way it goes. But yeah, what's my top tip? Read the signs and don't. It's got those big safety signs. They do actually mean.
Yeah, they're signs for a reason, right?
Yeah. And everybody since has said, "Oh yeah, they tip over really easily." And I'm like,
Is that really helpful?
Yeah. Thanks for
we're
telling me.
done with that information a couple of weeks ago.
You're obviously like quite a creative person as well. Is that something you've just done throughout your life, or like is that something you do as a job?
Well, not always. I mean, I've had loads of different jobs, but I was a physiotherapist originally. But I was a photographer for a long time. So I did a lot of wedding photography and children and animals, and just really enjoyed my photography. And I think that's sort of where the Instagram came from, because of being wedding photography. You kind of have to have an Instagram account, and you have to learn how to do social media and all that sort of thing. And then when COVID came along, I sort of started just for entertainment, really, just a gardening Instagram. And the gardening community on Instagram is lovely, actually. They were really friendly. And so met sort of quite a few people doing that, and then just carried that on. And then when we moved here, it was just natural to just sort of carry it on and, involve the house and what we were doing. And it was probably about 6 months after we moved here that this account just really sort of took off. And
your account's incredible. I mean, I think it's because the property is so different, and obviously there's quite a few people renovating Victorian properties, but it's just like the scale of it. And then, I mean, I've seen so many of your posts where you're just still like discovering nooks and rooms and things everywhere. So, and I'm not surprised it had that huge uplift.
Yeah, I think that's what people really love about it, is the history. I think particularly anyone in America or worldwide, they love the learning about the history of the place. And I'm still discovering every time we strip a room back, there'll be something that I haven't realized or haven't thought of, and because there's so many layers, quite often you sort of think, okay, this is just going to be because there's a Victorian house built in the 1840s, somewhere around there. But it was obviously built over the top of other buildings. And so we keep finding bits of the original. And you sort of think, oh, well, that's not that's not Victorian. Where's that come from? And how long's that been there? And so it's a giant puzzle, and we just find bits as we go along. But that's fun. I really enjoy that bit. So I really enjoyed that.
What's the favourite thing you found then?
Well, I'm still fascinated by the cellar that's under where I'm sitting now. The stonework down there is really old, and it matches. Obviously the house is red brick, but the cellar is this red sandstone, which is the same as the church next door. And the church has been there since, it's in the Doomsday Book. It's really old. So I would really love to find out how old that cellar is and how old those walls are down there. But there's also, I don't know, it kind of looks like a prison down there, but I think it was probably like it's like safe room. I think they probably kept valuables down there. But it's all like the windows, there's sort of room with like barred windows and a door with all bars on it. And so I like.
Is it a space you envisage utilising in some way, or?
Yeah, I mean, because we're on such a slope, the house is on a real slope. We've got a basement at the other end of the house, which is much more accessible. And that's got a wine cellar and a storeroom and what will be a laundry room next door. So that's a sort of a cellar space, if you like, that we will use a lot. But this one under here, I think we will just end up with as storage. Not nothing. I wouldn't put a cinema room down there or anything like that. It's just it's always going to be sort of slightly dusty.
It's always quite a hard space to sort of renovate as well. And even though I'm nearly 40 years old, I'm still slightly scared of going down into basements as well.
Yeah. I only go down there to check the pipes.
It's like Home Alone. Is it Home Alone 2? We go to the basement. Yeah. I'm still scared to this day.
Yeah, there's a really old. So there's an old Coke boiler down there. So it would have been the first boiler that was put in the house. So there's still piles of Coke, coal stuff, and then this ancient boiler. And I have no idea how we're going to get that out. I think it would just have to stay there because it must weigh a ton, and I'm not carrying it up the steps. So,
yeah, I live there forever.
Yeah, it might just have to stay there till it rusts away. But although this floor has got to come out, so maybe, I don't know. I still don't know how it would come out through the floor, but there we are.
That's it. And it's always that puzzle, right? You're like, I want to do this, but then to do this, I have to do this, this, and this. And then you're like, if I want to get this out and we're getting the floor up, everything snowballs, right?
Yeah.
How do you sort of plan this scale of renovation? Did you just really sit down and talk it through, or is it something you just went for?
We did talk it through, but probably not enough. I think the house bit has always kind of befuddled me about the order, and I'm still working our way through it. But I think that's why we ended up doing. So we've done the annex next door, which is a sort of it's attached, but it's a separate. Sort of self-contained annex, and that was because it's got its own plumbing and its own heating. It's just much easier to have done that separately, and then we've done some of the outbuildings because again they're separate. The main house, we've had the architect in and we've decided on the plan for the ground floor, and that's really helped now sort of bring it all together and know which order we've got to do things in, because for ages I was, we were umming and ahhing about where the kitchen was going to go, for example, and that until you've decided that, it's really hard to make any kind of plan, so, and we've still got we've got some really big plumbing jobs to do, and I didn't want to do those before the architect had done the plans because I was terrified the pipe's going to end up in, right where you wanted a door and things like that. So now that we've got the plans done, we've got this one big bit of plumbing left to do. And then we can start, and then it all becomes much easier then as to where we start. But the worst bit is going to be, and this is the bit that I keep putting it off. We argue about this because James wants to just get the worst bit done, like.
Yeah.
But I'm terrified that it's going to be half done and not, and I'm going to be living in just chaos. So I like to go much more gently, like bit by bit,
Yeah.
So, this room and the one behind me is that will be the new kitchen. But because there's that really old cellar underneath, the whole floor needs to come out. And then there's an extension, like a sort of conservatory that goes on that side. And so these three rooms are like the really big job that I'm just kicking down the road.
It's difficult though, isn't it? Because sometimes I think, especially if you're getting used to DIYing a lot yourself, you almost want to start on a room that doesn't matter as much and then progress into the big one. But then actually, like the kitchen and the bathroom, and where like your bedroom is where you spend most of your time. It's kind of you want to do those first, but it doesn't always make sense.
No, I mean, I like to leave. I feel like we've learned so much doing the annex, and we're getting faster. We are getting quicker, I hope. So, I think that's that's been a real lesson, and I think that it's good that we've left it. And I'm quite glad that we didn't have the architect in straight away either, because I think it was really good to just live here for a bit and get a feel for it, because then you get much more of an idea of how you want to live in a house, and what the problems are and how to sort them out. So I think that's been really good. But yeah, it's just slow, and I think it's just a choice of how you live, isn't it? You're just going to have to live in the mess for a bit.
Yeah, that's it.
Fine.
I completely agree with you, where you're like, let's live in it and let's then decide what we want to do, because how many times you think you want to do something and then you live in it and something changes, or in the summer there's a loads of light at the back, so we should have had our kitchen there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think it. Houses feel different at different times of year, and I think it's been really good to figure that out a bit and get our heads around it. And it is a complicated house, and it's with everything that's sort of been added on and bits, and we still change our minds a little bit sometimes. But I think we're all right now. I think we've got the plan.
You strike me as someone who's quite sort of patient and relaxed about it, but I guess you sort of have to be when you're doing something of that scale. You have to actually just be like, okay, we want it all done, but actually you just need to take your time and think about it and not just rush into anything.
I think my husband and I are completely opposites. We completely balance each other out. So if it was him, he'd have had a team of people in here day one and just the whole thing out. And, we'd be like juggling a million things. He always wants things done now as fast as possible. Do it. Make a decision. And I'm like, I don't know. I might need to think about that for a bit. We do drive each other slightly mad, but hopefully what it means is that we balance each other out and we meet in the middle somewhere, and it's sensible.
I mean, that sounds like every couple that's ever lived, so I think it's not too dissimilar from other people we've spoken with, I think.
Yeah. There's got to be one, hasn't there? There's got to be one who's like the driving force, and the other one who's just don't worry about it.
And are you like mixing up the style, because it's an old traditional building, but it doesn't mean to say you have to do like an old traditional kitchen. You can do the odd thing that's maybe a bit more modern, or are you sort of leaning into one area?
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I mean, we're not. I don't. We want to keep the feel of the house. So we didn't want to, for instance, we don't want really big open rooms. And, we talked a lot with the architect about, where to widen doorways and how to get a sort of flow of the house without ripping it out and making it a big, we could have like tried to take, I mean, I don't know that it would even work, but we could have taken this whole wall out and had this all as one big, open plan kitchen, which would have suited a sort of modern everyday, houses nowadays. But I just felt like that would change the feel of the house. And I quite like the fact that it is lots of, there are corridors, and it's old, and, it's rambling, and you turn a corner and there's a whole nother bit. And then, and I didn't want to lose the feel of that. So the layout of the house will still be quite old and traditional, I guess. And the conservatory that we're adding on is a traditional style. It's not a new, there's no bifold doors or anything like that. It's a traditional French window type thing. And so yeah, I think. But having said that, my husband really likes modern houses. And this is where we argue, because I will go and buy all these, I like antique furniture and things like that, and he's like, do we have to have that? So I would say we're sort of, there will be a mix. So there will be a mix of both, but it won't look particularly modern, but it won't look particularly old. There'll be, I think it's good to mix it sometimes. So I think you can use modern furniture mixed with antique furniture, and I think you can, if you do it right, it can look amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And you seem quite hands-on yourself. Like, what's the favourite sort of project you've done, or what you're most proud of?
I think I'm most proud of the repointing that I've done on the back of the house, because that was quite hard work. But there's a big gable end which took me forever. But I'm a lot quicker now than when I started, and I've got a system, and I quite enjoy it now. So I'm actually looking forward to getting back to that this summer and working my way around. So I'll do the front, which is actually, there's much less to do on the front, so it should be quicker. But yeah, so I quite like pointing. That's
you definitely have patience, because that is a slow and tricky job, a bit soul destroying.
I like to sit there raking out, and then putting it all back in again. Yeah, no, I quite enjoy that. That's quite. I think actually, when we had the scaffolding up on the back of the house, it faces south. And apart from the pointing drying out too quickly, which was a bit of a pain, it was lovely to be up there because it was sunny and we had nice weather, and I was just sat there on the scaffolding with my headphones on, and it was quite a nice job. So I quite like that. Yeah.
Amazing.
I am also really proud of just how it looks, because I think we had a builder come in, and I was a bit. I was sort of thinking, oh my God, is this actually going to last? Have I done this right? Is it all going to just fall out? There was a few tricky bits that I didn't really know how to do. Like there was a brick archway over a window where a couple of the bricks needed replacing. And I was like, oh God, if I take those out, is it all going to fall down? And I didn't really know what to do about the blown bricks and how to get them out and everything. So we had this builder come in, and he was great, and he showed me how to change take the blown bricks out, and checked what I was doing, and we did a bit together, and I sort of, he sort of showed me what he was doing, and what I'd done was fine. He was like, yeah, no, that's great, and so that really helped. That gave me loads of confidence. So I learned a lot from him, and then I think if you get trades in and ask them, they're always happy to share what they do and talk about what they do, and I think you learn a lot like that. So
we've said this to a couple of other guests. I don't think a lot of people are sort of scared to speak with tradesmen. They think they're going to get some sort of hourly rate just for speaking with them, but you can just sort of speak to regular people I think if you go to any pub in the world, you'll find a tradesman in there. So you can just actually speak and ask for some advice. It's a really good tip.
Yeah, no, I think, and they were. Whenever we've had people here, they're always happy to talk about what they do and how they do. I mean, the worst thing is getting them to. I think everyone, certainly with things like lime pointing and things like that, everyone has their own opinions, and they're very this is the only way to do this, and this is the way I do it, and this is the way you must do it. And so I think that's the only thing, is that you've got to sort of talk to a few people maybe, and take some advice with a pinch of salt, but yeah, no, I mean, people will talk to you and they'll help you and they'll teach you, and more than happy to let you join in. So I think that's great. I think that's how people learn.
And how have you found your sort of social media? Because you've got a huge number of following. Have you found in a similar way that can be quite a useful space to get advice?
Yeah, definitely. I think so there's, some people have been absolutely brilliant. So there's so the guy that runs Expertable. Have you heard of Expertable?
Yes, we've interviewed him.
yeah. I used Expertable when they did the sort of beta testing for it, and that was really good. Talking to a lime expert about lime plastering in one of our basement rooms, and really helpful. And there's quite a few people like that. Man with a Hammer, Greg Penn, has been really helpful with sort of the social media type thing. And then, like I said, the gardening community are great. So I've met quite a few people through Still. People who've still have like a few, sort of influencer days. So they, we did some stuff with chainsaws, and they really wanted to make sure that we were all safe before they let us make videos about chainsaws, It's a really good idea. So there was a few of us that went for a chainsaw safety day. And that was really good fun, and met quite a few people through that. And like I said, they were all lovely and helpful. Yeah.
Imagine you rocking up on your dumper truck with your chainsaw going.
Still we're having a bit of a. I think when I hurt myself, they were like, "Oh my god, thank God she wasn't using a chainsaw." Yeah. True.
So how do you find like the community in general, like all your followers, are they all quite friendly? Do they often reach out for advice from you?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, I talked to quite a few people who are just starting renovations who will, ask for all sorts of things, and then everybody's always after recommendations for gear and stuff, what you've used and that sort of thing. And then, I think most of the time people are like really, really lovely. But there's always something, like if you post. I mean, I don't post on TikTok very much because I find TikTok quite terrifying.
Yeah.
Because you can't post anything on there without, and the main thing I'd get, I suppose. I mean, I did originally. We talked about things like taking out the servants' stairs. That was not popular on Instagram. I was like, whoa. People can be quite opinionated, but that's fine, and that's you have to take that with what the it's just the name of the game, isn't it? If you post things in the public, then you're going to get some backlash with certain things. But like I said, most of the time people are lovely, and I think maybe I'm a little bit. I think you do learn, what's going to upset people, and I think probably I do edit myself a little bit about certain things, and maybe that's not such a good thing. Maybe I should just be honest and take the flack when it comes. But
it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because it's your home and it's your choices, but some people out there are just farcical and really opinionated, so it's a fine line.
Yeah, and I think I don't know. You get a feeling sometimes you post something and you think, "Oh God, this is good." You're going to get some stick for this, but a lot of the time, and the safety things always like really drive me mad, really, because I don't. I am quite safety conscious. Obviously, I'm not brilliant because I wouldn't have tipped it up. I do wear a mask when I'm sanding, and I do wear eye protection, and I do wear my safety shoes most of the time. But you can't. I get comments if I show a video of me sanding. I've got a face mask on, and I still get comments. You must wear a face mask. It's on. What do you want? That's what it is. I think sometimes people scroll through and they're just looking for people sanding so that they can say wear a face mask.
Yeah, you just can't help some people.
No.
Have you found a budget tool or hack? I'm asking this with a little bit of a guiding point because I saw you use one of my favourite things I've bought in the last couple of years, a plasterboard hoist, just to do ceilings and things.
Yeah.
And have you found anything like that? Like there's a really sort of cheap way of doing things or an easy way of making life a bit easier for you that you'd really just sort of recommend? Because I love my plasterboard hoist. The
plasterboard lifter is, I mean, that is... that has saved a marriage. That has.
It's such hard work, and it just does the job for I think mine was £107 or something, and I basically did it all by myself pretty much, rather than needing someone to help me. It was great.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, there's only plasterboarding a ceiling with two of you is a quick way to get divorced, in my opinion. Just hold it there. I'm not. Yeah, okay. That plasterboard lifter is really, really good. I don't know, things that we use the most. I think. So my husband's a huge Fez tool fan, which is not a budget, conscious way of doing things at all. but they are really good. And the battery powered sanders have been brilliant because if you're working up on the scaffolding, it's so nice to just have a little battery sander and just be able to carry on with that. Probably the tool we use one of the most is the Milwaukee multi-tool.
Oh yeah.
That you just can't survive without those. And we had some other ones, which we had a cheap one first of all, which wasn't as good, but the Milwaukee one is brilliant, and that will just cut through anything. And that's the thing that we're always like, damn it, where have I left the multi-tool? You really need that. And then what else? One of the things, it's not so much a renovation thing maybe, but something that we bought for renovation that we actually use probably all the time is this plumber's torch. Oh. And it's like a torch that goes on the top of a big gas canister. And we probably use it every day for lighting the wood burner, lighting the bonfire, or I don't know, what was I using it for the other day? Getting the bubbles out of resin on the stairs.
Candlelit dinners.
It's one of lighting the barbecue. It's like one of those things that everybody's always like, get the torch. And do you know what? It lasted probably about a year before the canister ran out, and neither of us could believe that this canister hadn't run out yet. We were using it so much. So yeah, get a plumber's torch. They're really good.
That's a really good tip.
Yeah. Never even heard of those.
No, I thought you were just going to say like a flashlight type thing. I was like, oh, okay, that's a wild tip.
It's like it's like a torch thing that just goes on the top of this canister. It's like a gun, So,
awesome, yeah. Well, brilliant. Well, thank you for your time today. We always sort of end the pod on just sort of the same question, and it's sort of your sort of least favourite and most favourite thing about DIY and what you've sort of achieved in your house. Like, what's been your best thing about doing the DIY yourself? So then also, what's the worst thing about DIYing a house, especially on your scale yourself?
It's probably the same thing for both, doesn't it? And it's working together with my husband. Sometimes we what have we done? We laid the floor. So we laid like an engineered wood floor. There's a post of that on Instagram of us doing it. And it was really hard, and we were on a really tight schedule because the kitchen was arriving, so we had to get it done before the kitchen arrived. And so we literally had like 2 days, and we were like trying to lay this engineered floor. But when we're under pressure like that, we're quite good at just problem solving and figuring it out, and we work together, and then it's really satisfying at the end of it. And it feels like, and I think it's brought us, we have actually got quite a lot closer because we're working together like all the time. But then that's probably the worst part as well. And sometimes I'm just like, like I said, my husband likes to do things like really quickly, and he always wants to like get on with things, and I quite like to just, like, I do most of the decorating just on my own. He doesn't really like painting, and I really like putting my audiobook on and working quietly on my own and just like painting. And he says I'm like Instagramming, because he says, oh, you're just Instagramming with your little paintbrush, and then he'll come and interrupt me, and he's like, oh, can you just help me move this door, and can you just do this, can you just do that? You're crazy. So yeah, so it's the best the best
That's
answer.
An amazing answer. That's the first time we've actually had that answer. That's a really sort of nice one to finish on.
Oh, good. I'm glad I thought it was something original.
Well, amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. If you could let the listeners know at home just where we can find you and follow, I really recommend people check out your property. It's incredible.
Yeah, so it's just Sweet Pea and Sorrel, at Sweet Pea and Sorrel on Instagram. And then you can find me on Substack as well, which is substack.com/Amanda Balmain, which is
amazing. Thank you. And actually, I don't know if this is completely naive. What is Sweet Pea and Sorrel? Is that something personal to you, or is it something I should know?
No. So Sweet Pea and Sorrel was because I started the Instagram account during COVID. It was mainly about gardening. And sweet peas and sorrel were two of the things that I was really good at growing.
Oh, I see. Right.
And so that's what. And I've kept thinking that I should change it to something more house renovation, but I can't think of anything. So, so it's just stayed the same. So that's what it is.
Maybe that's what's hooking people in. They're like, "What is this?"
Yeah, they're so confused. Yeah, so I really need to plant some. I've got some sorrel in the garden now. I really need to do better with my sweet peas this year, and then maybe it will make more sense.
Yeah, be more on brand.
Yeah.
Well, brilliant. Thank you ever so much for your time, and good luck with the mountain of DIY you have in front of you.
Yeah, we'll be here for a while, so come back in a few years, and I'll let you know how we're.
That's it. Yeah.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks, Amanda. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.